Okay, we're back on. Another week for the Cage and Simpson and Cage
Simpson
podcast,
and Cage.
huh?
That's the correct order. Simpson and Cage. Cage and Simpson doesn't sound as good.
Let Me Finish sounded better, but you know.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No,
100%.
it didn't. No, it didn't.
100%.
No, it didn't, Steven.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound better.
It's provocative.
It sounds so much worse.
Gotta get the people going. Anyway, Alex is back from a snowboarding trip.
Which is why I look like this.
Welcome back. You look fine. You look good.
Yeah, directly in the light, I look fine.
So we're back together again. Last week, Alex did a Cage's Corner episode on Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. Yeah.
Mostly just the De'Aaron Fox trade. I
Yep.
didn't realize that this doofus over here was
What?
going to name the video, Can Fox and Wemby be better than Shaq and Penny?
Well,
Which I don't address in the video, Steven.
okay, point one,
I don't address that in the
you
video.
got clickbaited.
Steven.
Point two, maybe you should have read my mind and
and
talked about Shaq and
your
Penny.
mind?
Yeah.
No.
Point three, is it possible?
Well, if Penny got hurt,
So did Wemby.
well, sure, but Penny got hurt and it derailed his career. If Wemby is hurt and it derails his career, the answer is no.
Okay, fair play.
The answer is no. If Wemby is fine and these guys get to spend 5 years together with De'Aaron at his peak and Wemby coming into it,
Yeah.
then they could be.
Yeah.
Possibly. But Shaq got Orlando to the finals.
And Penny.
Shaq and Penny got Orlando
Yeah.
to the finals. They lost to Akeem, but
Yeah.
if I'm remembering the years correctly.
In today's media landscape, I feel like we diminish the number 2 option on teams and just say the number 1 option.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure everybody knows Penny was
Penny
like,
mattered.
I'm giving
Absolutely.
him like 40%.
Penny mattered. No, absolutely. No, you're correct. We do.
Yeah.
We do diminish. I think that basically all started with. You know what? I don't know. Have we not always done that? I feel like we almost always do that. How much do people not in like the Northeast talk about like McHale? It's just Bird.
I think a lot of people in the Northeast talk about McHale.
Well,
maybe
yeah,
outside
that's
the
what I
region.
mean. Like I feel like
Oh,
number
that's
2.
what your point is.
Yeah, I feel like number 2s are almost always regionally much more coveted than.
I don't know. The
Like, I feel
Magic and Kareem Lakers, I think both of them
Well,
got their
okay,
due.
sure, but Kareem was a superstar in his own right before joining the Lakers.
Okay,
Kobe and
that's
Shaq get a ton of credit, like dual credit. But I feel like a lot of that's because they both, like, Shaq made the finals with the Magic without, right? Obviously, we just talked about it, he had Penny. But then obviously goes and plays the number 2 to Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
Right? Who also probably gets a ton of credit. But then Kobe wins. If Kobe had never won again on his own, very different. Legacy wise.
Yeah,
I feel
true.
like, right?
From people's perspective,
right?
yeah.
Like it's a very different.
But
so I feel
even
like
think in that case, Kobe was. It wasn't like Shaq was 80-20 to Kobe. I think it was more like 55, 45, 60, 40.
Yeah, that was much closer.
Yeah.
I mean, Shaq himself, right? It wasn't Batman and Robin. It was Superman and Batman, I think, is what is Shaq's quote. But you know what? I would say that, and I'd be interested. This is a complete tangent. We don't have this on our rundown here, but it would be really interesting to see how much of that has to do. So, like, in both instances, right? So Kobe was technically drafted by the Hornets, I think, but then traded on draft day.
Yep.
But he's a Laker his whole career.
Yep.
Right? Magic, Laker his whole career. Whereas Shaq and Kareem were free agent / trades into they were acquisitions.
Yeah.
So I'd actually be really curious, not just how often is it that the other superstar ends up going somewhere else, but how often is it like if you have a guy who was the number 2, but he's a homegrown number 2.
Yeah.
Right? Versus like Fox, like it'll be the opposite, right? If the Spurs actually ended up winning with him as the number 2, he would have been an acquisition versus Wemby would have been the homegrown.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he's basically grown in France, but
right.
nonetheless, he would have been a homegrown as far as the NBA because Spurs are the only team we've been with.
Cool.
So that'd be nice. That'd be a curious tangent.
I think we should take that up later on our non-news topics.
Yeah, on another video.
Talk about how number 2s get disrespected.
Yeah. I was about to blame Jordan there, actually. And not specifically Michael Jordan, but the media, that generation covering, because I was like, they just completely forget about Scottie. Yeah, Scottie was a first-team All-NBAer.
Yeah, but they don't forget about him.
Well, they do forget.
Universally known as the best number 2 of all time.
Yeah, but I feel like that is even almost to some degree a discredit to Scottie too. Like Scottie was a superstar in his own right. Scottie was a first team All-NBA, and the moment Jordan left, he was like 3rd in MVP voting the next year.
Yeah, but then what about the following year after that?
I think it was still 7. But Jordan also.
They were like.
But also, look, to be fair.
They were like 500 team until Jordan came back.
Let's see. The next year they won 55 games and went to Game 7 in the second round.
Yeah, we're talking about the next year. The next
year is when they lost to bring this full circle. The next
year
they lost to Penny and Shaq when Michael came back for 17 years. Yeah. And actually, fun fact, I just remember watching something else that was talking about that. Jordan got MVP votes, I believe, that year.
He did,
which is just wild to think about. Yeah. Played like 17 games in the regular season.
Well, so my point about that is the Bulls were about a 500 team that year, and then Michael came back, and they got to the playoffs on the sort of like spur of Mike coming back.
Sure. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. But I mean,
it is kind of wild, though, getting MVP votes.
After playing like 17 games
for all my Gen Alphas, that's aura. Okay? Mike had...
Did you just say that?
The most... Dude, I'm so for real. Michael Jordan has had and will always have the most aura of any basketball player ever.
Oh yeah, because we don't worship anything the way boomers worshipped Mike.
Oh, well, I guess Gen Z worships LeBron in a similar fashion.
No.
Yeah.
No. No, because LeBron made either the mistake or the choice, whichever word you think is better there, of getting political. Half of every generation from this point forward is going to hate him for good or for worse. Like, and that's not I actually don't think that. Because also...
Well, no, this is not true. Because Muhammad Ali also got political, and half of everybody doesn't dislike Muhammad Ali.
Okay, in... Half of everyone doesn't hate Muhammad Ali in retrospect. I think at the time, it was a much more controversial
But your point just now was half of the generations to come will hate LeBron.
Yeah, I
don't think that'll be the case.
Oh, no, I think it will. Because I think he's going to... Because I think after he's done playing, it'll be... Like the...
So you're making the point that Muhammad Ali was a better political activist than LeBron?
Okay, well, I mean... Well, yeah, I mean, all of the old guys, all of the, like, actual 1950s, 60s, 70s athletes, all of them were, that kind of is what defines that generation in the America. We're way off.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the real topic. We're going to cut that tangent off right here.
I can't believe it.
So, first topic of today, this has been something swirling in the media. We're getting to the close of the season. We've got about 10 games left in the NBA, give or take, for most teams, right? And so the swirling topic has been, who is the NBA MVP? And there's really two horses in the race right now. Two prominent horses that the media constantly brings up. And that's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and Nikola Jokic.
This is a bad job by me.
So those are the two who most people are bringing up as the horsemen.
Yeah, those two are running away with it, and this is a bad job by me. But I'm gonna check my app real quick and see what the actual betting odds are.
Okay, let's look at the odds.
Actually,
I like that.
I'm not gonna.
Let's go with the odds. Gambling has ruined sports, by the way, everybody.
Really? That could be a whole nother tangent. You think it's gambling? Hold on. No, you can't just say that though. This is where we're gonna get rid of these topics. We're just gonna shoot the shit. No. We're just gonna shoot the shit for the next hour.
I don't actually know.
Fuck these topics. I want the thoughts. I want your thoughts.
I don't actually know if that's the case. That just came to my mind, so I said it. But I don't have a fully formed opinion on that. I just thought it'd be funny to say it.
So this is Fox Sports.
Okay.
So right now, they've got SGA as minus 2,500, which is massive. And Jokic.
The media, if you just listen to the media.
At Jokic at plus 800.
If you just listened to the media and didn't know anything about betting, you would think that they're neck and neck right now.
Oh, I don't think after the last. I think
maybe after their head-to-head.
I think after the head-to-head,
the media is starting to
I think everyone was like, so. Look, okay, so.
Just what are your thoughts?
While we doing this, if I can operate a Mac mouse, this is weird.
Yeah, just find there you go.
There we go.
My guy's like he's a 28-year-old.
I don't
boomer.
use a Mac. Yeah, I don't. Okay, first off, a boomer. No, absolutely not.
100%.
That is not accurate at all. I just don't use a Mac mouse, so I actually have a scroller.
Yeah,
nonetheless.
28-year-old boomer.
So SGA, just real quick, right? He's 32, 5-6 on 52, 37, and 90 splits, which is bonkers. He's going to lead the league and he's going to win the scoring title in all likelihood.
Yep.
His team is going to, in all likelihood, because Cleveland has dropped off a bit, have the best record in basketball by a wide margin.
Yeah, they're already at 60 wins with 10 games left.
And so he is the best player on the best team. It is not at all. That is a very normal way in which to win MVP, particularly when, Jalen Williams and Chet missing a bunch of time, and Jalen not being, shout out to him for making, I believe, his first All-Star this year, not being but not having another superstar, right, on the team. Not another superstar. You're 60 game, you're going to win 65 probably, you're going to have the best team. Very normal.
Yeah.
Jokic, on the other hand, is just, he's 29, 12, and 10.
From a box score perspective, and he's going nuts.
57, 41, and 80 splits.
Yeah.
That's look, he's undoubtedly insane. The most interesting thing about the SGA Jokic debate to me is how do you feel and how much do you weigh having already won the award? Because obviously Jokic has 3.
Yeah.
SGA hasn't won one.
Yeah.
And I think up until the last half decade, really, and kind of with this guy, with Jokic, has been at the center of this, it was almost always like the unwritten rule that...
Yeah.
I don't think it's really... I think the first 2 MVPs, I feel like you can get almost in the most honest and direct way, just having great regular seasons.
It's kind of...
But once you get those 2, the 3rd, 4th, and God forbid if you were getting to 5 or 6, which is what Kareem has, are almost always you had to have... There's more to it. They're harder to get.
Right.
And so whether or not you think that's been applicably, fairly, I should say, applied to a guy like Jokic versus what SGA is doing this year is really the most interesting part. SGA is, in all likelihood, going to win this award. I don't think...
based on those odds...
the betting
he would
odds
have to get hurt today, and Jokic would have to get the Nuggets to the 2 seed.
So I don't even think that would...
for there to be a shot.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't even think... Because SGA, you said he'd get hurt. He's already played 69 games. So he's already met... he could not play the rest of the year, and he's met the minimum requirement.
Right, yeah.
So there's... I think that's the... But anyway, I would give it to SGA. I used to not care about all the other stuff with the MVP. I thought that was unfair. I was very much it's a regular season award. The regular season's all that mattered.
Yeah.
Michael should have more, LeBron should have more, Kareem should have more, and those are not reasons to not give it to the guy who should get more now. We should just do it.
That's how you thought.
That's how I used to think.
Yeah.
And then I read an article by John Hollinger about something that I actually don't care that much about, which is the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Okay.
But he was the gist of the article was basically we should stop putting in the towel boys from like the Lakers and Celtics.
Yeah.
Right, old days, and actually put in some of the other like great players that were on other teams that obviously didn't win the championship, but they were awesome.
Yeah.
But again, I don't really care about that. What I did care about, and what he had a line in there that I thought was awesome, and I might be paraphrasing this a bit. Again, bad job by me. I should have read the article again so I could quote him correctly. But he essentially said, "There's no critique. There's no lines of standards of how to vote for the Hall of Fame. Same thing with the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have any, standards or anything like that, then the only guidelines that you actually have is precedent.
Yeah.
Right? You only have what you've done before.
Right.
And so the not having any the NBA does not give any real direction to the voters. So the only thing that is actually there to give us any kind of direction is precedent. And for all of NBA history, the precedent has been, each MVP is harder to get than the last.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I would give it to SGA, even though I think Jokic is the best player in basketball right now. And you absolutely can make the argument that he's having a much better season. What say you, Steven? I just talked for way too long there.
I agree that Shea should win it. And for the reason that you mentioned, but I'm going to go further than you. So, one, why Shea should win it. He's on the best team with the best record. He's the best player on that team. He's going to win the scoring record. Not the scoring record.
The scoring title. The
scoring title this year. I even dove into some of the more advanced analytics earlier. Mm-hmm. And Jokic, if you see here, he has better PER. That's because his game fits PER.
Well, PER cares about rebounds.
Right. Jokic's game is perfectly crafted for PER.
Yeah.
Based on how PER generates its figure, right? But if you look at basically all the other advanced stats, Shea is doing better. He has a lower turnover percentage. They have the same... Shea has a higher usage than Jokic and turns the ball over less than Jokic this year. He has a better on-off split than Jokic. So just from that perspective, I think...
Is he actually better on-off?
Yeah.
Really? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, when I was looking on it.
Okay, that's wild.
Yeah, I would have... His on-off split is better than Jokic from what I looked at earlier.
Okay, I would have bet almost anything that Jokic's is better because Denver's bench sucks.
Yeah.
They're garbage.
So, for those very simple reasons, the way that I characterize a 1-to-1 MVP guy, I would give it to Shea.
Okay.
That's sort of my criteria. My thing with Jokic is I agree with you on the precedent thing. MVPs in the NBA do get exponentially harder the more that you get. The first one that you get, people give you the benefit of the doubt, like Shea, right? Usually,
sure.
Right? You're the best player in the league on the best team.
You're doing something stupid statistical for the first time.
You get MVP.
Russ with the triple-double. It wasn't the first time someone had averaged triple-double, but it was the first time in a very long time.
Right.
And it was Russ's first, so yeah, totally understand.
Oscar was the last one. Robertson was the last one to do it.
He did not win MVP that year.
Yeah, he should have.
Well, no, I think that was one of Wilt's. That might have been Wilt's 50 year. There was something stupid about that.
So a 1-to-1, you get the first one. Second one, you need to now be head and shoulders above a guy who has not won it to get the second one usually.
Sure.
Third one, you need to start having postseason success. Fourth one, you need to be a top 10 guy all time. And then anything past that, you need to be in the GOAT conversation at a minimum, right?
Anything past that is my dream.
My problem with Jokic is the voters keep changing the rules on him. And it's starting to piss me off, actually. So with his first MVP, totally deserved it. Second MVP, he was going back to back. And there was, bro.
Happy birthday, Steven.
Bro.
You were just having the most serious.
Anyway, so Jokic, I forget who he beat out for his second MVP.
That was the Chris Paul. He beat that was Chris.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Chris Paul Thunder Chris Paul, right?
No, Chris Paul Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix.
That Chris was Paul Phoenix Chris Paul. That was and I'm a big Chris Paul fan. I would have given him that MVP. Because he showed up to that Phoenix team and they immediately became one of the best. Now, ironically enough, also, Jokic then lost to Chris Paul in the second round. To be fair to him, Jamal Murray was not there. But,
yeah,
regardless.
So second MVP, okay, right?
Sure.
Then he loses to Joel Embiid.
And then he
loses the next year's MVP to Joel Embiid.
But wins the title. Just like Giannis.
And so then you're like, oh, shoot, right? But then he comes back last year. And so Jokic's first MVP, he was a 6th seed, right?
Yes.
That had never happened before in the NBA.
I think.
So if we're talking about precedent.
No, it was him and
I thought
Russ. He might have been a 5, but they both won basically the same number of games. I think Jokic was like 48 and Russ was like 47 or something, but he might have been a 5 seed.
The rule, they had the rule set on Jokic that it doesn't matter your seeding. If you're the most valuable player, we're going to give it to you.
Yep.
Then the next year, he bumps in seeding, and so they sort of manipulate the rule.
Sure.
And apply this new standard to Jokic. And then the third MVP.
Yeah.
Now we're back to the original rule that we had all the time, which is because he beat out Luka
So him and Shea was 2 last year. Right, Shea was second.
He beat out Luka and Shea.
He beat out Luka and Shea. He won the same number of games as Shea.
Yep.
And he won 7 more, I think it was, than Luka.
Yep.
So it was the combination of like, well, we think he's better than Shea. We think his stats are more impressive than Shea, and they won the same number of games, even though Shea ended up the 1st seed, the 1 seed because of the head-to-head.
Yeah.
And then the argument for Luka, who was having, I don't know, as good a year as Shea, certainly not as good a year as Shea defensively, but he won the scoring title. I think he was 32, 9-9 or something like that last year. Like he was having a crazy statistical year, and they were like, no, this guy's winning is better. So I can kind of agree with you there. It does certainly feel like that's the case. I actually think Chris Broussard made this point on on First Things First about how there's basically almost like a new generation of voters that have come in and how they're more analytically inclined. Mm-hmm. And we know Jokic, rightfully so, lights up all of those numbers, right? And look, I got to be honest with you, those are better numbers. Those are certainly better numbers, even if they're not as well known or as well as often conversed about. But those are better numbers. But it certainly does feel like, we kind of just keep changing it for this guy. And so if this year he then won it again over a guy who's having, the year that Shea is having.
A better year than last year, and last year you could argue that he was as good as Jokic last year.
All right, it would be it's a really interesting. It's a hard. It's also, I think for me, my biggest issue is if Jokic got 4, right, which is what this would be.
Yeah, he's now in Bron territory.
Well, it's not just that he's in Bron territory. So he would be 4 out of 5. That's actually exact, and he would have gone back to back, missed a year back to back. That's actually exactly what LeBron did. Yeah. Now LeBron had been to the finals already, right? He did that in 2007, and he didn't start winning these until a couple of years later. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the last 2 years of the MVP, he won the title and the Finals MVP. Right, those were the Miami teams. Yeah, because so LeBron won MVP last 2 years in Cleveland, didn't win it first year in Miami, won it the next 2 years in Miami. Yeah. If Jokic wins 4 out of 5, to me, what you're telling me is that Jokic is not just the best player on the planet; he is the best player on the planet by a wide margin. Yeah. I am, and we are, just by age biased for that argument because I watched the best player on the planet by a wide margin.
Yeah.
And he went to 8 straight finals.
Yep.
And I, at that point, don't necessarily really care that Jamal or the bench weren't as good or weren't hurt, because I watched LeBron early in his career with those Cleveland teams that weren't very good and didn't have a second star as good as Jamal Murray, and I watched him with that last Cleveland team when Kyrie blew it all up. And like, carrying those rosters to where they were is what the guy who is the best player by a wide margin should be able to do.
Yeah.
At the very least, not be getting his behind kicked. And this is where it becomes a problem for me. First MVP, he's the 6th seed, loses in the first round to Golden State because he was the 6th seed. So we played a good Golden State team. Like, it's not that losing to Golden State is embarrassing in and of itself. It's just like, but you were the 6th seed. That's why you're playing.
Yeah. Why were you the 6th seed?
Right. The next year, he gets to the second round, loses to Chris Paul. It's maybe a little worse because I think Chris Paul finished second that year, so it's like whatever. But Jamal Murray gets hurt, and that's tough. To then miss the year, and it really feel like that the voters had to be almost shamed into not giving it to him.
Yeah.
Whether you think that's because Kendrick Perk called them all, brought up race into the equation between him and Embiid, or if you think it's just that the overwhelming that I think him not winning that was everything, just like Giannis not giving a third, which was you won back-to-back, and then we saw you lose in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, like each year that you won it. We're not going to give you 3 in a row if that's your, right? If that's going to be your history.
Yeah.
Unless you've already shown us that you can go to the finals or win a finals. Like, you're just not going to do that. That's what I think it was. Maybe it was also the Kendrick thing. Whatever. Kendrick Perkins. Regardless, to then, last year, right, be in a Game 7 in the second round and then lose again.
Yeah.
If he wins it this year and then they, God forbid, lose to OKC or the Lakers or whomever they would play in the second round, he will have 4 of the 5 league MVPs. He will have been basically the best player by a wide margin every single year by these voters, and every year except the year they didn't give it to him, he got knocked out in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough look historically. Yeah. Personally, I think that's the tough look.
It's like the opposite of Kobe.
Sure.
After Shaq. Because Kobe, after Shaq, he was going to the conference or the NBA finals in back-to-back-to-back years.
Yeah, he went to the NBA finals
and
3 more times.
And MVP,
now,
right?
Sure. Yeah,
it's like the opposite.
Correct, yeah. Now, there was the gap in between. Like, Shaq left, and then Kobe, I think the first 3 years, I believe, was out in the first round.
Right, but what I'm saying, like...
But yes, you're right.
Like Kobe in prime...
Correct, right?
He has prime right now.
Yeah, he had the Nash. Those are the Nash controversy years. Did Nash take those from him, or they did take them from Shaq?
Right.
How did Kobe only end up with one? I think that's because Kobe probably only deserved one, and wasn't actually as good as everyone thinks he is. But that's another matter entirely.
Okay, yeah.
That would be a
See, if I was you, I would stop the whole video to talk about that. But I'm not. I'll just leave that, and we can talk about it later.
He's arguably the most overrated player in the NBA history.
That is crazy that you say that.
I think he is. But
wow.
That's a real one that we could actually spend like 2 hours talking about.
Wow. That's disrespect.
That's not disrespectful. I didn't say he was a bad player. I just said the most overrated. I think he's consensusly ranked higher than he should be.
What is he ranked?
Well, I think if you ask former players, they wouldn't put him in the GOAT conversation. A lot of them do. I think there's a ton that do. I think most people probably have him in the top 4 or 5, if not like 6. Then maybe you might want to edge that out to 6. But yeah, I think he's outside the top 10. But like I said,
that is crazy.
Yeah,
taking a team with Pau Gasol to 3 consecutive finals is OP or is overrated.
I think you're drastically underrating how good Pau was in that instance.
Pau was good.
Pau was really good.
But
Pau was awesome.
That was basically it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those teams had Lamar,
who never made an All-Star team.
No, he didn't. But those teams had Lamar.
Let's not do that. Okay. That's a whole different video. So back to the MVP discussion. So Shea should win it, and Jokic is getting interesting treatment that is starting to irritate me. But
really irritating me.
But I think Shea's going to win it this year based on those betting odds. So everything's going to be okay until next year when we go through this circus again. That's how I feel.
It'll be Luka next year. He'll have the whole LA bump.
Oh yeah,
everything.
He'll have.
And if they actually put together, they actually give him a center, then he'll be over. He'll be tossing lobs to whomever.
Cool. All right. So
besides just Jackson Hayes.
Second topic of the day.
Speaking of the Lakers,
is
this should just be a whole. What are the Lakers doing?
Are the Lakers better without LeBron?
That's a terrible topic. That is not. It's not even. It is just so nonsensical. It's just so nonsensical. No one thinks that.
Let me give you the case for why the Lakers are better without him. And I'm not even saying that I believe this, but I'll give you the case. Have you seen his on-off split?
I have not.
He has a negative on-off split this year.
No, it doesn't.
Oh!
Is he really minus 70?
Minus 70 on the year.
On the season? It doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That actually is crazy.
So back to, and I'll cut all of that middle stuff out. So, all right. So coming back from the cut, the question was, are the Lakers better without LeBron?
No.
The case for the Lakers being better without LeBron is his plus minus or his on-off split this year. On statmuse.com, if you look up LeBron plus minus 2025 for the 2024-2025 season, as of today, March 26th, LeBron is minus 70 on the season.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Never guessed that. But that just, my mind does not compute that.
So LeBron is averaging 24 points a game this year. The Lakers are currently the 5 seed as of today.
Yeah.
Right? So they have an above 500 record. But if you're looking at his on-off split, what you could deduce, I suppose, is that when they win by a slim margin, and when they lose by a wide margin.
Sure, I mean...
When LeBron plays.
Yeah,
Isn't that a wild stat,
That
though?
is a wild stat. I honestly, I'm still not even sure I believe it. I feel like I can't. My mind cannot wrap my head around it.
Yeah, so if you look at PER, LeBron has about a 23 this year in PER, which is top 15 in the league.
Yeah.
So that advanced stat.
He's still awesome.
So on-off split.
But that is crazy. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I gotta be honest with you, that might make me like on-off splits a lot less, to be honest.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. As an actual measurement,
that's a LeBron fan for you.
As an actual measurement, that's crazy.
That's a LeBron fan for you.
That's crazy.
Advanced stat doesn't support LeBron? Let's throw it out.
First off, on-off split is not an advanced statistic. That is not a correct description.
I think it's not a simple statistic.
Wait, okay. It is a simple counting. It is literally just how many points. It is just the difference between points scored when you're on versus when you're not on the floor.
I think it takes into consideration lineups, though.
No, that's what your estimated.
Oh, that's adjusted plus minus. Sorry.
Might take into consideration.
I don't know who has
lineups or something like that. No, just your raw on-off numbers do not.
We'll call it an intermediate stat.
And like I said, that is a crazy. I really don't.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I really don't know if I believe that quite yet. I really just don't. I don't know that I believe that quite yet. Nonetheless, the Lakers are going to be fine. I think as long as LeBron is healthy, coming back. Them and Luka looks like he's playing better. are just it's just a problem that I don't think teams have answers for.
But they can't defend.
So I think they can.
When Luka got there, they played good defense.
Yeah, then LeBron left and the defense cratered for a bit. I think, look, they have to play. They're similar in this regard, I think, to the Nuggets in that they don't have, except they don't have an Aaron Gordon, but they don't have this eraser rim protector in the back, right? They used to have Anthony Davis, obviously they don't anymore. So when they play good defense, it has to be because, all five or, with Luka on the floor, 4 of the 5 play really well, or, you'll hear the term on a string together, move, rotate well, and then LeBron, and then this is where Luka is actually really beneficial to you. They're great rebounders. LeBron can be, and he has been since Luka's been back, an excellent rebounder, and Luka is an excellent rebounder. And for all of Luka's flaws defensively, he does help you in that regard. And that is important, particularly if you're going to be a team that has to rely on all team defense, right? They do not have any great individual stoppers. I mean, their best defender is Vanderbilt, and he is hard to play in the playoffs because of his lack of shooting.
Yeah.
The guys who will actually play minutes that are their best defenders are probably DFS and
Dorian Finney-Smith
and Gabe Vincent. Again.
Yeah, so your best defenders are bench riders.
Well, no, DFS starts for them. DFS starts, and DFS is he's had a long career in the NBA as being an archetype of 3 and D. And then I think also has the benefit because he's played with Luka before. He was on the Mavs before they traded him, I think 2 years ago. But nonetheless, they're correct. But their best defenders are DFS and Gabe Vincent, and those guys are not elite defenders anymore. And so, or at any point maybe. And so their team defense is what's going to take them. But the advantage that they have is they have Luka and LeBron. And, good luck. Best of luck to you to have a wing defender that can guard one of those guys, let alone have to guard both of them.
Yeah.
Right? If they played the Nuggets, that's the question. Someone not named Aaron Gordon can only guard one of them at a time.
Yeah, best of luck to the guy who has to guard -70.
Stop. Woo! Swear to God, one of these.
That's really funny.
We're gonna look back on these videos and we're gonna wonder what the hell we were doing.
That was funny. Dude, you're too young to be thinking about that.
No, I'm not. I'm an old man.
He is. He's a 28-year-old boomer, dude. I'm telling you. Okay. So I think that.
Oh, maybe boomer one more time. I swear to God.
What is wrong with that?
I'm not a boomer, my guy.
Yeah, you're just like an old fart.
I hate you.
What is the problem with the term and applying it to you?
I just genuinely don't like it because I'm gonna take shots at boomers. I don't
What about boomers though?
It's just an incorrect description of me.
Boomer is really just
that's 2 generations removed.
Old guy who doesn't understand tech.
Okay. Yeah, Steven.
Boomer. Humor. Gotcha. In a box. Strapped. Do you want to move on to the next topic?
The Bronny one?
Yeah. Topic number 3. Does LeBron James Jr., Bronny James, deserve to be in the NBA?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
I think all of the stuff around Bronny has been remarkably blown out of proportion. But I put, Bronny, the draft pick, was no worse of a draft pick or no worse of keeping on the roster than Giannis's brothers or J.R. Smith, I think, with his cousin way back with the Knicks, or people who wanted to sign Seth or keep Seth around in the G League because they thought Steph might be available one. current NBA stars getting an opportunity for a family member is neither unheard of nor rare.
Okay, so based on precedent, you would say
there is no problem with that. There's no reason to me to single out Bronny. If you wanted to open that up and say this is actually an example of an ongoing problem in the NBA of denying other deserving candidates shots because of blah blah blah, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, JR did that early in the 2000s with the Knicks. Steph and Giannis more contemporarily. So we've got 2 decades at least of those things happening, and no one's saying a mumbling word about it. So I don't care that they spent the 55th pick in the draft on LeBron's son.
Let me crank this sort of a different way a little bit, and we'll see if this opens up your mind. Do you think on his own merit he should be in the NBA?
Yeah, I actually don't think it's crazy. So I am taking the viewpoint of so the 55th pick in the draft in the NBA is the equivalent to like a 7th round NBA or NFL player, right? So is it worth taking a flyer on this guy? There is and look, Bronny just had 39 in a G League game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's starting to ascend in the G League.
He's starting to do well there.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. Bronny was a 4-star recruit, I believe, out of high school. I don't really follow high school.
Sierra Canyon.
Out of Sierra Canyon. It was stacked team, good high school reputation, all of it.
Yeah.
And I don't follow a ton. I only know this because everyone talks about Bronny now. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've got a catalog in my head of high school recruits and who was good and who wasn't. But I believe he was a 4-star recruit. So 4-star recruits are good recruits. They're also not, generally speaking, considered world beater crazy. Outliers. There are way more 4-star recruits, at least in football, out of high school than there are 5 stars.
Yeah.
There will be 55 stars every year. There will be hundreds of 4 stars. Yeah. So he's a 4-star recruit who goes to school.
Yep.
And suffers cardiac arrest. His heart stopped.
Was that before the season?
That was before the season started, right? So for probably the first time in his life, he doesn't play, he doesn't practice, and he doesn't work out for. I don't think he started playing again until December or January.
Yeah.
Right? So he completely knocks out any off-season program that he would have gone through, anything like that.
Yeah.
And then he's not very good. Right? He averaged 4 points a game. So he's not very good in college. But, if you're drafting on projection, and he would have been considered a late first-round draft pick, just based on the fact that he was a 4-star, people thought he was going to be one and done or whatever, and he's batting in his first year, taking the 55th pick, again, taking the flyer of a 55th pick in the draft on him to say, well, look, we're basically just going to toss out his freshman year because we're going to chalk it up to cardiac arrest and that throwing him off his game. So he's undersized. All right, he's 6'2". We're a little worried about his jump shot. But by all accounts, no character concerns.
Yeah.
Right?
Squeaky clean.
And IQ, a basketball IQ, he should be a smart player.
Yeah.
And appears to be. So, smart guy. Obviously, the pedigree of being LeBron's son or whatever, the genetics that you think lead to that, whatever. But smart player that was a decent high school recruit that struggled because of cardiac arrest as a freshman. Again, the 55th pick in the draft. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that on his own merits someone might have still taken the flyer on him.
So
I don't think that that's crazy. The Spurs drafted Primo, who they've since let go because he had off the court issues, he was not great. But one of the reasons they took him, and that's probably a deep cut for most people, I think he went to Alabama, is just because he was super young. And in the NBA, like that matters. Like not being, 24 or whatever matters. So I don't think. Do I think he would have been drafted this year? Probably not if he wasn't LeBron's son.
Yeah.
I also think he probably just would have gone back to school, and then would have maybe been in the same position next year. Like a year in college in the program in the off season, not suffering cardiac arrest. Like he might play better in college. Like I think there's a real distinct possibility that he wasn't better in college because he suffered cardiac arrest, and that I feel like we just have discounted that.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing. So I don't think it's crazy. I think yes, he's in the NBA because of his dad. That's not unprecedented. It's unprecedented because it's his dad and not a brother or cousin.
Yeah.
But it's not unprecedented from a familiar connection standpoint.
Right.
And as far as his own merits, I mean, he's played about as well as you would expect the 55th pick in the draft to play. Like, I understand that he got cooked by Tyrese Maxey a month ago or whatever on national television. But I just, he's the 55th pick in the draft. What do you expect him to do? I expect him to get cooked by Tyrese Maxey. If you toss him out there because the Lakers were down 3 guards that were hurt, he gets cooked.
I think, so I agree with you that if he wasn't LeBron's son, he would have just gone back to college and then he would have developed and we would have seen if he would have gotten drafted later. I think the reason he got drafted is because his dad and his dad said, I want to play with my son.
I want to play with my son.
And if you want me to be here, then draft me.
Oh, I don't think he would have left.
No. He said, wherever my son goes, I'm playing.
Oh.
So,
I don't think he would have actually left.
But this is what he said. Publicly. He said, I want to play with my son.
He said, I want to play with his son.
And so, wherever that is where I'm going to play.
Did he say that leading? I remember, because LeBron on Bronny, when Bronny was still in high school, was very public about wanting to play with his son.
Mm-hmm.
But as all of that got closer, I felt like he stepped back quite a bit.
You want to take a look?
So yes, because I remember what you're saying. I remember LeBron saying that or something close to the effect of. But as each year has actually gotten closer to that being a reality, I feel like his messaging had changed from I'm going to be wherever Bronny wants to be to whatever's best for Bronny, whatever Bronny wants, and things of that message.
Okay.
So again, I don't remember exactly the timeline of that.
I think that probably still hung in.
Oh, but
organization's minds.
Sure. I also am very confident that he was not actually going to leave LA. I don't think he would. If the Mavericks, because that was one of the other teams because of Nico Harrison, ironically enough. But anywhere that he had an actual connection, if he had gone to one of those places, I don't think LeBron was. I don't think he was going to leave LA.
Yeah.
Because of it. But regardless, he's in the league because of his dad. I just don't think it's nearly as catastrophic or as damaging as some people have.
Here's my take on this.
Made it out
on the catastrophe bet. You're right. Over the past, really since the 21st century started, there's been some favors for family members.
Yeah, and who
probably shouldn't be given a shot otherwise.
Yeah.
But here we are, right? And so this is not new. I think the catastrophe lies more with how the media was gassing Bronny up and then the counter response.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. I don't feel, and maybe this is just the difference in media that we've taken. I don't remember there being a ton of, Bronny's actually a good player. I don't remember a ton of. No. I do remember a lot of promotion around that this was going to be the first father-son duo in the league together.
Yeah, and that was great. That was fine. But when Bronny has a G League game and then the NBA's main account posts him in one of their few, like,
sure.
I think they post like a couple times a day, and when Bronny is one of those posts from a G League game, then what I'm saying is the catastrophe is like there's a group of the media who is like gassing Bronny when otherwise like nobody was gassing Seth, nobody was gassing
that is true, and
so like the catastrophe is there's this
we've decided
firestorm
it's LeBron
to put it out basically
it's LeBron, and so it's being used for everything.
That's the catastrophe
and
that's my take.
Yeah, and I can if you don't like that portion, if you don't like the fact that there's so much coverage of the 55th pick of the draft, just because that's fine.
Yeah.
My issue is seemingly with like guys like Stephen A. I'm pleading with LeBron as a father to stop this. Like, that's not a...
Yeah, monologuing after you got...
Well, that too.
Run up on.
That whole thing is... Right, that whole thing is ridiculous.
I went down a rabbit hole watching Stephen A. talk about that.
I've liked Stephen A. for the most part, but I thought that was one of the most ridiculous things. All of it. That's not a... My issue is, it seems to be that we have then taken, like, the backlash of, I don't like... Because I don't even blame you if you're like, I don't really even like the... father-son duo stuff because I don't think Bronny got here completely on his own merits. I actually think that's a perfectly fine opinion to hold. Like, I understand that.
Yeah.
But it feels like the backlash is a criticism towards a chance to criticize LeBron and Bronny when in fact I don't think that's like the criticism there is of media. Like,
yes, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
exactly
like,
my point.
I feel like I feel like people are using this as an excuse to criticize Bronny or LeBron, and I'm like, I don't like criticize Stephen A. Smith for giving you a 10-minute monologue because the 55th pick in the draft got cooked by Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
Like, that's not.
Yeah.
That's not LeBron's, or I mean, it's Bronny's fault because he got cooked, I guess. But it's not, like, you know what I mean.
All right, everybody. I hope y'all had a wonderful time.
Oh wait, can I wrap up the Bronny thing with one?
Yeah.
Sorry. My biggest issue with Bronny is there is no need to cover him the way we are, but if we are going to, you need to pull in the context of exactly the kind of resources that were spent on his draft, and then what that means, like second round picks. I want you right now, live, to just name all the guys that you know that were second round picks in the NBA.
Wasn't Jokic a second round pick?
Jokic?
Currently in the NBA? Because I know
all time. Name any of them you want.
I think Tony Kukoc was his second round pick.
Okay, I haven't fact checked that, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean,
we can pull it up, but don't right now. We'll check it. So Kukoc.
Yeah. Let me think. Who else? Giannis.
Nope.
He was a first round pick.
He was 15th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, not Giannis. Was Reeves a second round pick?
Reeves was undrafted.
Undrafted, that's what it was.
But we'll add him. We can do that.
Because we know of him. I could probably come up with more, but those like top of my head.
Draymond Green was a second round pick. Paul Millsaps was a second round pick.
Okay.
And Manu Ginobili, second round pick.
I'm noticing a trend in some of those.
Which is
our overseas guys who end up
particularly
awesome.
Particularly older, right? Before we were better at scouting those guys.
Yeah.
All right, so that's 7, and now we are gonna do something here because I want to know. So Tony,
I believe Tony was a second round pick.
Let's fact check that. Tony
Toni.
T what?
Toni for Tony.
Oh.
Tony. There you go.
It is.
Let's see.
He was
Second
round pick. There you go. All right. He was a second round pick in the 1990 draft.
Yeah.
Jokic, actually Reeves, would have been probably the most current guy. 2022. So between 1990 and 2022, right? That is 32 years.
Yeah.
30 second round picks every year. 960 second round picks. We just named 7 of them.
Yeah. Fair play.
We just named 7. And I'm not saying that there aren't more. I'm sure there are. My point is, if you are a second round, and Kukoc was second round, and they said 29th. So he wasn't even, that's right. They added the teams in between then. So those numbers are going to be a little off. But roughly 900 players. And he was the 29th pick, so overall. So he would have been top of the second round at that point. All second round guys. Bronny was 55th. There were 4 guys. I think actually they were missing some. I think people have been fine draft picks. So he might have been even closer to last. My point being is hit rates on second round draft picks turning into anything. So obviously you have kind of the whole range of players there. Role players. Jokic is going to go down as one of the best ever. Draymond's one of the best defensive players ever. But you have everything in there. Hitting any level of success, being a rotational player in the NBA as a second round pick is exceeding the expectations or reasonable outcomes for your draft position. So if we look up in 4 years or 5 years and Bronny has become the 8th player off the bench for a team, that is a massive amount of success for where he was drafted.
Yeah.
And justifies the assets and the resources that were spent on him. If LeBron,
from a team perspective.
If LeBron had been like, you need to pick him 17th, where we picked Dalton Knecht, that would I'd have a completely different feeling about it. It would be completely different, but he didn't. Yeah. They picked a 55th. They spent a 55th pick in the draft on him. And if he turns into anything, it's wildly above reasonable expectations. So that's my issue is I don't think the context of what was actually spent resources and what they're having to dedicate to him is accurate in terms of how we're just saying, well, look at he's averaging 3 points a game. It's like, yeah, dude, he should be. He should be averaging a point a game, 3 points a game, whatever the hell it is. He's the 55th pick in the draft in his rookie year.
Yeah. Cool.
So.
All right,
we're done now.
That's everything we got.
We went a long time.
Another Gymshark day, ski goggles guy.
Yeah.
And with that said.
Oh, okay. Only an hour. We did an hour 40 one of these times.
We did.
But that